today we got to play CoLab by Portal Dragon Games. This game is where you get to be playing a mad scientist. Sounds like a lot of fun. Alright, but before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and that notification bell because board games are amazing and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Now, Randy, can you tell us a little bit more about CoLab?
I can. So this is a 2024 release. This is the deluxe all-in edition. It has a Board Game Geek rating of 7.4 and a Board Game Geek rank of 8322. It's a 1 to 4 player game, average length of 90 to 120 minutes, and the age is recommended for 10 and up. That's probably about right. The design is by Jonathan Gilmore and John Meatling. Probably mispronouncing that. Art is by Magdalena Prozowska. I can guarantee I'm mispronouncing that one. Published by Portal Dragon Games, and it's a worker placement, dice rolling, deck and pool building game. The all-in pledge on Kickstarter was actually pretty affordable at $100. So that included these really nice playmats, which we'll go through in the quality, and all the pieces you see here.
Storage,
the little cat, which is named H.P. Lovekins. So you get this plushie, and there's also a little mini of him too. I guess it's their mascot for the game, I don't know. The only place you can find it online that's either not a pre-order from Portal Dragon is the retail versions for $69.95 at Noble Knight. I couldn't find any other retailers selling it.
Yeah. Now I remember when we came across this at Gen Con last year, I think?
It was like a year or two ago.
Maybe. Maybe it was 2 years ago. And both of us, it caught our eye.
Yeah, because the prototype had these amazing miniatures, and we're like, okay, what is this game? And I ended up picking up one of their other games, Planetoid, there. So as far as a small publisher, this is a pretty impressive release as far as the components.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into the quality of components. So you got these beautiful player mats that do have the edging, and they're absolutely gorgeous. The artwork is phenomenal. You also have these miniatures. These miniatures are just the detail.
Yes,
they're beautiful.
It's twice the size of a standard miniature. They're, good chunky miniatures, and so are the little minion ones, and they're all custom for players.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I saw them, I'm like, babe, I want to try to paint them. I don't know if he'll let me try to paint them. We may give them to somebody who actually isn't trying, because honestly...
Yeah, we have some friends that are really professional. If you have seen our Marvel United miniatures, we have, Vincent is a good friend of ours, and he's an excellent painter.
Yeah, so I don't think I paint too bad, but not as good. I'm different level, amateur level. So no, but the detail was so breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely love that. Even these, everything they did was spot on. And then card quality, you had them sleeved already, so I don't know what they're like.
Well, the all-in came with the sleeves for the whole set. The cards did not have a linen finish. They're smooth finish. They're decent thickness. Not great, but decent.
But they gave you sleeves.
But the sleeves make up for it because, it doesn't really matter whether they're linen finished or not if you've got the sleeves.
Right, absolutely.
And they do barely fit in the box with the sleeves. It's tight.
Yeah, but they managed it, so that's good.
Yeah.
The dice are different, like they have the special facing.
Yeah.
You have these really cool trigger icons that you use, as well as the potions.
They're screen printed on one side, not the other, but that's actually important to the gameplay, so that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, because you had to know when you've already done it or not.
But I like the clear dice. They have 3 different colors, and they're two-toned with a white face, so they're easy to see.
Yeah, so just everything. This was a really good production of the game.
Except for the cardboard.
Well,
the cardboard it leaves a lot to be desired. So
why is that?
I don't know if it was just the cardboard or the cardboard combined with the seal that they put around as far as the plastic. Because when I tried to open the punch pieces, the sealed plastic stuck to the cardboard and tore one of our corner pieces. Because you build towers on the edges of the board, and it tore, so now that tile stands out as being obviously identifiable, which is not a huge deal in this game because it's not really critical to the gameplay as far as what those tiles are, but it's very annoying when you got such a beautiful game and you have one component that just is torn.
The other thing I'm a little sad about is the white dice don't fit in the poison ivy.
Yeah, they're slightly just a hair larger
just
than the other
enough
dice.
to be annoying.
Yeah.
But all the other dice fit in it just fine.
And all the other colors work fine. It's just the ivy ones.
I know. And I'm the one with the ivy, so I was annoyed that I couldn't do it. But I just didn't use my white dice for these. I just took them out and used them as resources, which you can do. So that was a little sad for that. But other than that, I actually really, really liked it. I think they did a great job. I'm going to give it an 8.5. Like, maybe even 9. Like, if you tell 9, I'd be like, yeah, I agree with you.
I would have probably gone 9 if it weren't for the cardboard. I probably would go an 8 because that really annoyed me when I was trying to get the cardboard open and could watch it tearing as I'm peeling it all off. It's sad that when everything else is so great to have the cardboard quality be subpar. It's not horrible, and the board has a nice.
Let's talk about the price point. $100.
$100 is really good for this, especially considering this is with stuff that you don't need, like the plushie and the extra mini, and there's components that were in the. I mean, you get these 4 giant playmats, which generally that'll run you close to $60 just for those.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, this was a steal. Like, I feel really good about this. So, just kind of keep.
Yeah, this is definitely for the price point a great quality game as far as the components. But the other thing is with the cardboard, the board doesn't fit perfectly together. Some of the pieces bow up a little bit, and that's when you put the tiles on the edges, it makes them not want to stick into where they're supposed to as a result. So there's a few things like that are just kind of minor annoyances. So that's why I'm gonna give it an 8.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the actual theme. You're a mad scientist. Who doesn't love being a mad scientist? And it definitely feels like you're going to different labs. You're trying to do different things. You've got your little minions that you've got working.
You're creating creations which are represented by the cards.
And the creations are so much fun. Like
the
Royal
art
Chalice.
is beautiful.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The art is gorgeous. It's breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I mean, they may have made it a little bit better with the theme and the gameplay? Maybe. But the art, top notch. I'm going to give this a 9.5. The art was breathtaking to me.
Yeah, I mean, the theme is what attracted your brother to this game when I was getting it out. He was like, oh, this looks like fun, and it's just because of the theme. Had no idea how the gameplay worked at that point. And, given the fact that we were looking at before, which we haven't got reviewed yet, but we've tried to play Inventions with both he and with Adam, and both of them basically bailed or didn't have an interest in the game because it was a dry Euro. This was a complete opposite for that.
Which is funny, though, because it's almost kind of funny, because in that one you're building, basically...
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. You're building inventions. Now, the gameplay is completely different, which we'll be soon getting our review up for that. And
but the theme... When you compare the theme to Inventions, way better theme on this.
Well, it's more of a fun theme for a lot of people. I still enjoy the theme of Inventions because I like historic games and I like dry Euros.
So, but I mean, this is a lot prettier.
I mean, definitely the art is better. I'll give you that. But I don't know if I would say it's prettier. I think that when you take the consideration the component quality and the looks of that one to this one, I would say that one wins hands down. As far as just the presence on the table, when you look at the pieces, if you took the pieces out of the picture, that one would win hands down.
But this is like majorly the pieces.
I know the pieces, but if you look at the board for the other one is way better.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, I think this one, I agree, is probably going to get a 9 or 8.5 to 9 for me. I'll go ahead and give it a 9 because the pieces are outstanding, the art is outstanding. And the theme is a fun theme to a lot of people. Including me. I enjoy the mad scientist. So.
Exactly.
So, and I love that my character had basically Igor as his minion. He had three little copies of Igor with their hunchback on him, which was really cool.
Yeah, I was poison ivy. I enjoyed that. All right, so moving on to the rule book.
So the rulebook is pretty. It's 20 pages in length. It's got a cover that's actually different than the cover of the box. It's one of the few. Usually you see a replica, but it's got nice pictures all throughout it. The interesting thing is where you need nice pictures, it's kind of lacking because like the setup has a tiny representation of the board, reflective to compared to the other pages, and it made it very difficult because the first time you play, it has a recommended setup, and you're putting the board that you have to assemble this whole board, and you can't see the iconography on the tiles to know which one is what as far as the towers go. So it took me a long time to set it up. Not that it should. It didn't take long the second time.
Well, but moving forward, it's going to be randomized, and then it's going to be fine.
Yeah, but the initial setup, because of the way this is pictured on here, it was very difficult to figure out exactly how you're supposed to arrange it for a first-time setup. And then, they have a first game setup. We kind of ignored that because it basically tried to get everybody to have different dice and abilities that they picked. We just went ahead and picked our own. And it worked fine. I don't think you need to follow those rules for the first time play. If you're an experienced gamer, you can pick this up and play it. It's not that difficult of a game. It was a quick read. There's a lot of empty space in the rulebook, and it's good font size, so it was very easy to read. We did find some things that, as we went through it, that felt like they were easy to miss in the rulebook, but also we found things like iconography that was confusing because it was not represented in the book or on the cheat sheets. Now the cheat sheets, they give you 2 cards. One that has all the actions for your turn, rest or regular action turns, and one has a half page of iconography, and this is where it's lacking. I think it needed more iconography. And then the other side about basically some of the actions of your cards, which isn't spelled out that that's what that is, but it's clear to figure that out. It just should have said probably card actions. But I think these cheat sheets help a lot, but the rulebook wasn't bad. I think it was a good speed read. And then there is a section at the back for solo play, which is actually pretty extensive from page 12 on. So really the rules are only about 10 pages for the actual gameplay because it's a pretty simple game. I'll go ahead and give this an 8. I think it does a good job, and the cheat cards help a lot to push that score up. I just wish it was a little clearer in a few things and had a little bit more iconography representation.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the actual gameplay. So you start out the game with 2 cards. Now, one of these 2 cards you have to. One is a ongoing ability,
or a one-time.
Now, the other piece of it is at the bottom of that card is in-game. So there's going to be one that you're going to choose the top for and one you're going to choose the bottom for. And then, so that was a very interesting and fun.
Yeah.
I actually really like
I like that mechanic too. And you got to choose when you triggered it. So if it was a one-time ability, you could keep it for later in the game when it was valuable to you. But you wanted to maximize for your in-game scoring. So if it was an ongoing, you probably wanted to trigger it right away, like I did, just to make it so that whenever you went somewhere, it would affect it.
Yeah. So I really liked that piece of it. So once you kind of make that decision, then you're going to actually go to the gameplay. So the game.
Well, first you got to get your cards. So you get 3 cards of your choice from the different types, and you've got monsters, you got potions, and you got basically mechanical creation.
Well, and you can actually choose 3 of any kind you wanted. I think most of us did 1 of each because we didn't know what we were doing. So.
Yep, and then you get 2 dice of these upgraded dice, the clear ones that are blue, red, or purple, and those correspond with the resource colors because you're using those to build the cards. It's really the goal of the game is to build those cards.
Right. And then the game ends, obviously, when you build 12 of those cards. That triggers the end of the game. The round finishes. Everyone completes their turn. So you could end up having more than 12.
You could have 12 because you can complete your turn as well, and you could potentially build. I think max we ever built was like 3, but you can. There's ways to build more than 1.
So with that, one of the first things as a turn, I'm either going to place a worker or take off a worker. In this case, I'm going to place it. I would have had 2 dice. Randy, if you could hand me some more dice, please.
Which colors do you want, red or blue or purple?
Purple and red. I don't know.
Okay, there you go.
All right, so Okay, here
These would be in your pool. You have a bin for new dice, and then you have a pool or spent dice will also go in the bin.
All right, so I'm gonna do a wild purple. I'm gonna put that one in it. See, like that one fits fine. All right. So then looking at my cards, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to play anything. However, I do get to possibly trigger this ability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. Now I got two options. I can do the one up top or I can do one at the bottom. I'm going to choose to do the one at the bottom. That which gives me a purple card and a potion.
That's the top one, actually. Potion, okay. And then, so anytime you place a minion or remove a minion, you're going to trigger a action like that, which is on the tower.
Then I get to actually move my worker. Now I have to move it. So depending on, so say if I was here, I would have to move it. Well, I've decided that I'm going to go here because there are 4 minions. That looks pretty good. So I'll be able to trigger this ability twice. So I have 4 workers. I'm going to choose to collect as an action. So I'll get 2 dice of my choice.
Yep. So this tile has a picture of 2 minions at the top of it, and it's got a wild die, so you can choose any type.
So I'm essentially spending 2 minions' work to get that die. So I have, they're doing it, and they're also doing it.
You can use your opponent's minions. That's one of the things that's unique about this
and
game.
I actually like that.
Yeah, I do too. If they're in that area, you count them as part of your resource supply or count of minions that you go apply.
So in this case, I'm going to take 2 blue dice. Because I already have 1 purple, 1 red, so I'm trying to diversify.
She does not roll them, though. She puts them straight into her pool because she has to do actions to get them out of that pool, or
Correct.
she can do a rest action, which will reset all the dice.
All right. Yes, absolutely. All right, so then Randy's going to take 1 off.
Yeah, well, no, I have to add 1 first, so I'd have to have already had 1 on play.
Yes.
So if I had all my minions on here, you're always going to have at least 2 minions on the board, and I would have been on the board somewhere. You're always going to have at least 2 minions on the board. Now, if I take 1 off, let's say I took this one off, I'm going to remove the die, put it back into my pool because it's spent. Now, I trigger the action of that space, which this one allows you to take a wild resource, which, well, not wild, but it's blue, but there's 2 icons on each resource type. That will count for either blue resource. And they made them these chunky wooden, which I kind of don't like, but I understand they're easy to tell shape-wise and color-wise.
Well, they're nice to pick up.
They are easy to pick up, but these remind me a lot of the Dune Imperium chunky wooden stuff that you get with that was very generic, that they then later released upgrades for. Same kind of thing. But these don't have any icons on them, so I can use them for either of the blue icons. And at the end of my turn, I can have as many of these during my turn as I can collect, but at the end I can only store up to 4 resources. And 1, if you happen to get a potion, which is only useful for cards that require potions, you can only store 1 of those on your board. Now, if you have cards, that's a different story for those. But you can only hold up to 4 of these. And we would have started the game with 1 resource at the beginning too. So if I then took mine off, I can then trigger either a resource or a collect action like Miranda did, or I can do a build action. So let's say I had the resources to build a card. I could spend whatever resources using the faces of the icons around me to complete a card. I don't have any cards in front of me. Can you give me some cards? 1 of each would be great. So here, there's a red wrench, a red gear, and then there's a purple brain. I can only build purple ones, and here I can build up to 2 because they have 2 icons for building. So I'd have to play my purple card, which is this one here, the monster, which these are actually pretty valuable. These are a lot of in-game scoring or during game scoring technically, but you're going to score.
Upgradable scoring is what they call it.
But this one requires a gear, which I have. I've got 2 brains. I have 1 here, and then 2 lightning. I don't have that, and a leaf, which I don't have, which is blue. So I do have a wild blue though, so I could spend that. And if I had another brain and 2 lightning, or I had purple resources to subsidize, let's say I had those, I could actually build this, and then I would put it on my play mat. And the first one you build, you can play anywhere on your playmat. Subsequent ones have to be adjacent to that first build. So there's a engine build that you can do, which I love engine building games, and this was what made me most excited as we were getting this out, because you build it and it's based upon the orientation of where cards are on that mat, on that play mat. Now, one thing that was interesting about the play mat was that you can play them up to 4 wide and 4 down in this arrangement. But most of the playmats didn't have one of the boxes on them, or some of them didn't have 2. One of them has all 16 boxes. So you have to just kind of cover up the art. But I'm not sure why they didn't put a subdued outline on all of them. They did on one of them playmats, but not all of them.
But it's so pretty, I don't mind.
Yeah, it is very pretty, but yeah, it just kind of, it's like, can I build down there? When I was first looking at it, I was like, I mean, granted, it's going to be very difficult to get 16 when the game ends at 12 anyway, but you still don't want to limit yourself on your arrangement of your cards. So yeah, if one player can do it, everybody should be able to do it. So yeah, we just assumed that you could build anywhere in that 16 or 4x4 grid. But yeah, the card play is my favorite part of this game. So that would have been my turn, and we basically are going to keep going around until somebody's built 12. Now, there's one aspect of this game that I thought felt like it was tacked on, which is this research piece. It works and it scores a lot of points. You can't really ignore it, but it didn't really feel cohesive to the rest of the game to me.
I thought it was fine.
But it's an attachment to your player board, and honestly, this player board you won't even need if you're playing with the playmats, because everything on the playmat is on the play.
You still need this
on
thing.
The board. What's that?
You still
yeah,
need
you
this.
will still need this research regardless. But the research is kind of interesting the way it works, because you basically, if you earn research tokens, you can spend them once per turn to move yourself up, either victory point wise or to gain some resources or cards, however you want to spend them. But every time you gain victory points, you have to cycle up your disc. Now, it comes with a cardboard token. This is actually the scoring token in the standard game, this wooden token. But with the deluxe, they gave like little miniature minions to use for scoring.
It's super cute.
So I just replaced the cardboard with these. It works the same anyway, because they just kind of sit inside there halfway through. And you're going to move it around until you hit 10, at which point you have to flip it over, and then the cost of everything goes up. So after that point, you can still gain research and victory points and such, but it's going to cost you more. So it's an interesting mechanic. To me, doesn't feel cohesive with the rest of the game, because there's not a lot of things that gave you research. You had a few cards that did, and then there's some actions that.
Well, no, you got them here.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is you're building your towers on the sides of the boards as you go. So as you move up the score track, whoever's in the lead, everybody but that person, when they cross thresholds, gets to add pieces to the tower, which are going to increase each space's abilities.
Yeah, which basically means that, like, for example, when I collected, I got 2 dice. Over here, when I collect, I have so many options to use my workers to do things. So that was actually very beneficial.
Yeah. And so not only that, everybody else gets a wild resource token that they can use on their turns, if subsequent turn or turns. So it's based upon the difference between where you are and where the person who's in the lead is. So if they're way in the lead and they cross multiple thresholds, you might get several of those wild tokens at once. So that's a nice catch-up mechanism that doesn't really feel like basically a huge catch-up mechanism. It's just a little help.
Well, it's different when you go through like 3 of them and everyone gets 3 free resources, and you're like, hey, I wanted those.
So, and then the rest action is basically when you burn out a dice or you just really need your dice back, you can send your scientist to the center of the board. Now your minions stay where they are, so you don't affect any of the minion dice, but every die that's in your bin and anything that's in your pool, you can opt to re-roll and put them back into your pool. So it gives you more dice to spend in subsequent turns.
The thing I forgot to mention, you can spend your dice for the resources to build the card.
Pool. Mm-hmm.
If they're in your pool, you can, so like I had rolled this, I could have spent this to build a card. So when he was looking for resources, he might have looked at his dice pool and found what he needed to be able to play.
Right. So yeah, you can use the dice multiple ways, and I thought that was really well done. Some of the things I thought didn't work out well. There tended to be a natural tendency to specific locations once you started down building them, because with all the minions that it kind of gathered, you get more power in that space. So what you'll see is we didn't end up using half the board for most of the game. I mean, it was all focused.
Tried.
You tried, but there's such a benefit to taking advantage of all the minions being clustered together that
I did get to shift the board. I
Yeah.
noticed that because we started with these three,
Yeah.
and we shifted to here.
Mhm.
And I think if I instead had shifted to like here instead of just this one, I think we would have
Yeah.
turned. But it's kind of I don't
Yeah.
know. And I think maybe it's partly the way we played it, because there were times where I had more benefit playing over here, but at the same time I knew I was going to have less strength. So there's just it's. I think it'd be interesting the more you play, because maybe that won't happen again, but it is.
I think there still will be that natural tendency because the power of the minions is so strong.
But I loved it. I loved doing all the cool things.
Well, I did too. I liked the collecting of resources, although and no matter what decision you made, you felt like you were sacrificing the build action. That was one thing that was kind of frustrating. Like, if you collected, you can't build by naturally. Now, you can get cards that will bypass those rules. I had several. So, like each card deck has its own strength. So, like your machines, they have a trigger switch that if you build next to them, you can trigger that card. But there's other ways to trigger them too. And I had several that would let me build additional cards. So did Adam. But they're worth less points. The potions, you get those and they kind of give you kind of strange effects. Usually they play really well with the machines, and that's where I got a lot of my triggering. But they are triggered by these potion tokens. You can only trigger each card once per round, but if you can accumulate up to 4 potions on each one, so you can spend them. And there's ways when you start building these towers out to get lots of potions, like the top of her tower she's built gives you 5 potions for 3 of the minions. So you can take those potions and spread them across whatever cards you want. I had so many potions on my board that I would put 1 on each one, and I would be able to trigger them all on the next turn. So there's ways to do nice comboing with these cards. I like that a lot. The problem is I felt like the monster cards had so many more points on them that you almost had to pursue that as part of your strategy. Now, I didn't have to. Your brother won handily by doing that almost exclusively.
Well, I won, and I had 4 of each card.
That's right. You ended up coming back but he was leading the game there for a good long while.
No, I was leading for the first
you
half
won
of the
from
game.
The research.
Yes. But that's what I'm saying is you don't necessarily have to do monsters if you're doing the research.
Right. But those are the two that were very powerful in scoring.
Because you guys played so many cards. I didn't get to play all 12. I only got to play 11.
Yeah.
But
I only got 13 down. It wasn't like I got that much more than you.
Right, but I had to rush it. I ended up with crappy cards, and I was just like, I'm just playing to play them at this point. So that's kind of... But at the same time, but my power was specifically for those.
Yeah.
Versus your powers was a little bit differently. And I think that's the other piece, is your power was related to getting people to land where you were at. So of course you wanted to condense your power so people were more apt to choose that location.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is there's 11 of these starter card bonus cards. Some of them felt like they gave you a lot more points than others.
I think, but the abilities were different.
Yeah.
Because if you, the one I had, it was like, okay, you get 4 per set, right? Or the other one was 10 points if you flipped over this, right? So this is a lot easier to do, but then I would have had to switch my ongoing ability, and I was missing out on the 12 points for end of game. And then, so that was just kind of, it was an interesting pair up, and I thought it was a good strategy. Yeah, they're different, but that's kind of the point.
Well, I like the fact that there were different points attached to the top section, the ongoing or the one-time effect, than what you got at the bottom. I'm not sure they were balanced because my ability was pretty decent. It wasn't great. Early in the game it helped a lot, but later in the game people were bouncing around and I wasn't getting as much benefit from it. But it gave me 8 victory points on that bonus, and then the bottom bonus on the other card was difficult to achieve, and that's why I had to focus on building a bunch of things because I had to surround cards. And that gave me 12 victory points at the end, which was nice, bump. So between the two, I got 20 bonus points. That's the only thing that kept me in the game.
I got less bonus points than that.
I had a lot of potions that gave me 0 points. Whereas Caleb had cards that were giving him 9, 10 points on monsters. I mean, it seems like you almost had to play some of those monsters or follow the research path, which is what you did. I never saw either one of those things. I never saw a card.
I don't necessarily agree because I ended up with blue cards that were 3-4 points piece.
I didn't see them. I got nothing. I kept having bad luck drawing. I just got 0 points on most everything.
But that's deck building, right? Like you're drawing from a deck and you kind of like you don't know what you're gonna get because I got a monster card that was worth 0, right? Like so. I think it's just a matter of what you pull, and I think drafting now you can choose to spend any resources, including cards, to change the die face.
Yeah.
So that's something we didn't mention. So if you have a card you don't like, you can use it to change it to make this more valuable or more something in line with what you need. So just kind of being.
And there are actions that let you get dice out of the pool or the bin and put them into your pool, which is. I never had to rest the entire game, which is I'm the only one that didn't rest at some point in the game.
Oh, I rested.
Because I kept having actions that let me take dice out of my pool, either from the board taking it, or I had a potion that gave me that let me trigger one that gave me 2. Oh, a machine, not a potion. I had a machine that gave me 2 dice out of my pool.
I think though I focused around making sure when I built cards, build them 2 at a time, versus you did a couple of one. A lot of people did some one-offs until towards the end.
Yeah.
Overall, though, giving this a score, what are you thinking? I'm
probably about 7.5. I think. I think it's got a little quirkiness to it, but I think overall the gameplay's solid, and I love the engine building. I still feel like the cards are a little imbalanced, and if I don't like games that force you down one path to victory, and it feels like
there's not one path.
It feels like there's 2 to me. I can understand you don't agree. I feel like there's 2 paths to victory. You have to either pursue having monsters, or you have to pursue have research. And the research to me feels like it's kind of clunky, tacked on. So I think 7.5 is a fair score for this, given the clunkiness aspect.
I'm going to say something very different. I think I'm going to give this an 8.5 because I don't feel the clunkiness you did at all. I think strategically there had to be decisions made. You guys ended up choosing to do potions to trigger your stuff, which allowed you some really cool effects, where I ended up choosing the research tokens to get those victory points. So I think it's a matter, like, we all had different strategies. But so I don't think that the scores were that far apart to say that there's only one clear way. I think it was seamless. I think it was easy to get out of the table. I think it was very fun to learn. I think it's very eye-catching and pretty. There are a lot of like Easter eggs as far as, Andrew joked around.
Yeah, there were some cool Easter eggs in the cards.
Yes, like Andrew was like the Pokemon master because he had a capturing device.
Yeah.
That looked awfully like a Pokemon ball.
I had 2 sonic screwdrivers and yeah.
Yeah, and then and so I had a freeze ray gun. I'm an evil scientist. So there's a lot of little Easter eggs. I really enjoyed it overall. I think I'm going to give this an 8.5. If I'm wanting an easy worker placement that has some fun, has some depth, I'm gonna come to this one. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast, and hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.